This is Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel.
Tonight on Real Sports. When 14-year-old Corinne Schroyer died, her parents chose to donate her organs, a decision that opened up a whole new chapter in their lives.
Corinne's lungs changed his life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, saved his life, changed his life, gave him a life, gave him his life back.
And now, from the HBO Real Sports studio in New York, your host, Bryant Gumbel.
Good evening. Later this evening, we're going to update our story about the pills, purging, and starvation diets that jockeys routinely turn to in order to lose weight. But first, a story that, while painfully sad, is also a vivid illustration of how one family's tragic loss can sometimes bring renewed hope to others. As we look to this week's Thanksgiving holiday, Frank DeFord looks at how two men in Georgia and Virginia share a bond for which both can truly be thankful.
It's another race weekend for Len Geiger and his friends Kevin and Christy Schroyer.
How are you? Good to see you. Good seeing you. Mwah.
Did you sleep?
Sometimes it's just for fun, like this 5K walk in Greenville, South Carolina.
Go!
2 weeks later, the competition is more serious at a marathon in Richmond, Virginia. Whatever the event, the goal is the same, to be together and to tell their story. But just 5 years ago, Geiger and the Schroyers were strangers, living parallel lives 400 miles apart. And they would have stayed that way if Kevin and Christy weren't forced to make the toughest decision of their life, a decision that saved Len Geiger's. Geiger's path to this race began in his hometown of Gainesville, Georgia.
I was a professional in the medical business, had a nice family, had a nice house, great job. Great life.
The same good things were true for the Schroyers of Lynchburg, Virginia. They had two pretty young daughters, Corinne and Colby.
Hi, Corinne. Hi.
Corinne, the oldest, was bright and outgoing and involved in all sorts of activities.
She played soccer. She played goalie, and when she wasn't playing goalie, she was playing forward. She was studying ballet, and plus she played saxophone.
She played the sax?
She played saxophone in school band.
And when Corinne wasn't in school, she was often with her father, going up to Orioles games in Baltimore or touring Civil War battlefields.
She was Daddy's girl?
Yes. I would sooner be doing things with her than most anybody else.
Down in Georgia, however, Len Geiger's happy, healthy life had begun to crumble when he began experiencing breathing problems. Minor at first, but his difficulties increased. By his 35th birthday party, he couldn't even walk across a parking lot.
I had to lean up against a stranger's car, trying to breathe and shaking like a leaf. And the very next day, that's when I called my doctor and said, I'm coming in because I want you to test me for everything you can think of.
Geiger's doctor diagnosed him with a rare lung disease known as Alpha-1 Antitrypsin Deficiency, which can be fatal if left untreated. Even with medication, his Alpha-1 symptoms worsened.
It's this drowning sensation. You're suffocating. And there's a physical feeling to it, but there's a mental feeling to it, too. It's terrifying.
And also, surely, panic sets in, which makes it worse.
Yes, panic and anxiety.
Eventually, Geiger had to depend entirely on oxygen and was barely able to leave his house. He was placed on the waiting list for a lung transplant.
Within 2 years of my diagnosis, I had to go on disability. I couldn't work anymore, so I lost my job. With the loss of the job, I lost my house in the nice neighborhood. My wife asked for a divorce, so I lost my family. And ultimately, I had lost everything that I had defined myself by.
As Geiger drew closer to death, in Lynchburg, Virginia, Corinne Schroyer, who was then 14 years old, had begun to have some emotional problems.
She came to us and told us that she was experiencing periods of sadness. I don't think she ever used the word depression, but sadness. And she couldn't understand why. She would go from feeling sad some days and then very happy the next, and kind of bounce back and forth.
Was this evident to you?
Not really, no.
Corinne asked her parents if she could see a professional to help her discover what might be wrong. Her therapist prescribed an antidepressant.
How long did she take it?
She'd been on it 10 days.
Just 10 days.
10 days.
And did it seem to make any change in her that was noticeable to you or to Christy?
I can't say that it changed her much one way or the other, for that matter, no.
So the end came as a complete and utter surprise?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
On May 20th, 2002, Kevin Schroyer picked up Corinne from school and dropped her off at home. Her mother and sister were there. Corinne went up to her room while Christy and Colby stayed downstairs. When dinner was ready and she didn't respond, they assumed that Corinne had fallen asleep. So they went up to her room to wake her.
And they kind of poked their heads in the door, I think, and Corinne, come on, wake up. You know, it's time for dinner, or what have you. And there was no movement. And then Christy has told me that's when she noticed the handgun laying on the side of the bed, and it was at that point that they realized what had happened.
No one had heard the gunshot, but Corinne had fired a single bullet into her head using a handgun she'd found hidden in her father's closet. Since the incident, research has found that antidepressants can prompt suicidal thoughts and behavior during their initial months of use, especially in children and young adults. Corinne was rushed to the hospital.
This happened on a Monday, and I guess it wasn't until about Thursday that we realized that chances were she was not going to survive the injury.
When did you first mention the idea of donating her organs?
Several days after she was admitted to the hospital. Christy and I had already decided to be organ donors ourselves, and I thought that was something we needed to talk about as far as Corinne was concerned, and we think it's what Corinne would have wanted us to do.
6 days after she had shot herself, Corinne Ashley Schroyer died.
And the phone call comes?
Yes, and they said, this is the transplant center with the University of Virginia, and we have lungs for you.
We have lungs for you.
Yeah.
Only 6 hours after that phone call, Len Geiger was rolled into an operating room in Charlottesville, Virginia, there to receive Corinne Schroyer's 2 healthy lungs. The surgery was a complete success.
Can you tell me what it's like for someone who can't hardly breathe at all to have an operation and within a week to be utterly normal? What is the sensation?
I will tell you honestly, there was a point at which I thought I had actually died and that this was heaven. That's how good it felt.
Within 2 weeks, Geiger was out of the hospital and ready to take his new lungs out for a spin. Within months, he was on a mountain bike, and by the following summer, he was competing in everything from bike races to road races to triathlons.
Suddenly, the world opened up, and this list of what I could do was so big, I just went gung-ho after everything.
Back in Lynchburg, Virginia, the Schroyers tried to cope with their grief. They placed their child's ashes in a memorial garden at their church. Christy still can't bring herself to talk publicly about their tragedy. Kevin, who had been an avid runner, found it too difficult to train anymore. The solitude of a long run was too painful for him to endure without his daughter. But down in Georgia, Len Geiger began writing a note to the strangers who had given him his new life.
And I never could get it the way I wanted it. And a friend of mine who's had a lung transplant said, just say thank you.
By now, Kevin and Christy were ready and eager to hear from one of their daughter's recipients.
How did you feel when you opened it up?
We were all like reading the letter, and it's just a real nice thank you letter, and I'll never forget, he had a very nice photograph enclosed in there. And Christy and Colby's first reaction was, wow, he's a pretty good-looking fellow.
The Schroyers wrote a letter in return. Soon after, they were exchanging phone calls.
Finally, we decided, let's meet face-to-face.
Almost a year and a half after Lynn received Corinne's lungs, he went back to Charlottesville, Virginia.
Kevin, Christy, Colby, Len Geiger.
And met his donor's family.
Hi, Len. So nice to meet you.
What was it like walking into that room?
Wow. What an emotional experience. We sat down at a table that had been set up there for us, boxes of tissues prominently placed.
And then they gave me a photo album. And it started off with a baby picture. And as you turn page after page, there's Corinne as a little girl. And then slowly you watch her as she grows up to be a beautiful young woman. And then the photographs stop. And that's the end of the album. And it was one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my life.
They spent several hours together, the Schroyers sharing stories about Corinne, Len thanking them for giving him a life again. And then it was time to say goodbye.
Christy came across the parking lot and came up to me and asked, said, "Do you mind if I do one more thing?" And I said, "What?" She goes, "I just want to put my hands on your chest, and will you breathe for me for a while?" And she stood in front of me with her hands on my chest, crying, while I breathed.
God, that must have been intense.
I couldn't cry anymore. I had nothing left.
But it was during that first meeting that both men discovered that they shared more than just the connection through Corinne. They both enjoyed races. Figuring it was a good way to spend some more time together, they signed up for an 8K in Richmond, Virginia the very next month.
Kevin kept a running monologue going for 5 miles, and I could barely get a word in edgewise. And that evening, we sat together over a cold beer, and then I said, "What was that about?"
During those periods of silence, I would hear him breathing deeply, breathing heavily, and from an emotional standpoint, that was a little rough for me to deal with. So I think my defense mechanism to that was to keep talking. Let's keep talking and joking around and talking about this, that, and the other, because it's the closest I will ever again come to running with my daughter, is running with Len.
It was also at that first race when word of their story began to spread, and Kevin and Len realized the effect that their relationship could have on others.
People were coming right up to us telling us, "I'm going to become a donor because of you guys, because of your story, because of what I've heard." We decided we can't just stop here. We have to, let's do some more events.
So far, they've done 6 races together, including a marathon, and they pledge to do as many as they can, whenever they can, to raise organ donor awareness. Christy has been joining them recently, and while Len is only able to race walk since his hip bones gave out due to the heavy steroids he had to take to combat Alpha-1, the events are still joyous occasions for the three. But the tragedy that brought them together is never far from their minds.
Do you ever feel the sort of mixed emotions that it is their loss which makes it possible for you to have such an extraordinary gain?
Kevin and Christy's attitude about the choice that they made has really helped me with that. To them, these were 2 separate events, and it prevents me from feeling guilt. I don't feel guilty.
In so many ways, Corinne's lungs changed his life.
Oh yeah, I mean, saved his life, changed his life, gave him a life, gave him his life back.
They created a family because after the transplant I met my wife.
Mr. and Mrs. Bryant Gumbel!
And not long after that,
Mommy. Yes, baby.
they had a daughter of their own. They didn't have to think long about what to name her.
My daughter's name is Ava Corinne.
Give me a kiss.
Mwah.
What do you think Corinne thinks about all of this?
I think she'd be very, very proud. I hope she's very, very proud of her mom, her dad, of Len Geiger, for doing what we're doing. I can think of no better way to honor her memory. And what a greater legacy for Corinne Schroyer to have left.
Frank, I want to tread carefully here, but you have the disease that Mr. Geiger had, and you lost your daughter, Alex, at a very young age. Did both of those make this story especially difficult to do?
Yeah, I suppose so. It is sort of like looking into a mirror, isn't it? I was diagnosed with Alpha-1 about 20 years ago. It's a genetic disease, so I've had it all my life. But obviously, I'm tremendously blessed in that I don't have it nearly to the situation that Len Geiger does.
Yeah.
I'm not in need of a transplant.
Besides Len Geiger, did the Schroyers ever try to connect with any of the other people who got organs from Corinne?
It's the other way around. It's the people who get the organs who can then try to contact. And you have to do it through a third party. It's rare. One other person did contact them, but not, just to say thank you. And that's usually what it is. It's unusual to have the sort of connection that they did.
Yeah. Just curious.
Yeah.
Kevin Schroyer, is he feeling a degree of guilt about keeping the handgun in the house?
He used to be a cop, and he thought the gun was hidden. And I don't know whether he feels guilty, but she wasn't supposed to find it. It's not like he was irresponsible and left it around. He was shocked when she did.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
All right, Frank, thanks very much.
Thank you.